Welcome to the Greater Than Business podcast, where it's all about creating an amazingly successful business without sacrificing your quality of life, because life should be greater than business. And now, here is your host, Courtney Bedore.
This is episode 52 of the Greater Than Business podcast, and today we are going to be talking all about the different ways to nurture your audience with email. So what I want to talk about specifically are the different types of nurture campaigns that I use in my business to keep my list engaged and also to keep my audience feeling supported. Let's just put it that way. I want my audience to know that I am 100% behind them. I am here to help, and I want them to do nothing but succeed. And the way for me to do that is to stay in constant contact with them. So from the moment that you join my list, I'm going to be emailing you. Not because I'm trying to sell you something. I obviously am at some point. But right now, my whole plan is basically building a list and providing as much value as I can. And obviously, some of the value that I can provide is paid and something that would require payment. But the majority of it is free. And it's something where I want to provide service in that way. So the best way for me to communicate these offerings, free and paid, is through email. And the best way to develop good habits is nurturing your list. So nurture means basically sending them value-based email, not all the time, but consistently. So on a regular basis. And there's a lot of different fields of thought out there on how many times a day you should email your list, how many times a week you should email your list. And honestly, it depends on you as the business owner, how comfortable you are with writing emails, as well as your demographic of who you are dealing with. If you are dealing with busy people, then maybe you want to email them a couple more times because you know that they might not see that first email that you have. Whereas someone that is dealing with clientele that aren't necessarily as busy and they're more frequent to be in their inbox and regularly checking things, then obviously you don't want to email them the same email multiple different times. So that's kind of, there's a fine line there, and only you will be able to determine what works best for you and your business. So those are a couple things that I wanted to talk about off the top of this episode, but I really, really want to get into the different types of nurture campaigns that I use in my business and how you can use them in yours as well. So let's start off with the first email nurture sequence that you should have set up in your business. And that is called a 30-day indoctrination series. And there's lots of other different names for it. It could be a welcome mat series. It could be basically like the get to know me series type thing. There's a whole bunch of other names, but when I was first starting out, I was taught the word indoctrination series, and that was just kind of what I've stuck with in my brain. So what the 30-day series is basically bringing people into your list and giving them curated messages that go along with your business and the reasons why they joined your list. So you want to basically give them support, kind of give them a tour. Basically, it's kind of like they're walking into your home and you're giving them the tour of your house, except your house is your business. And you're letting them know the ways that you can help them, the ways that you show up, the ways that they can get in touch with you, the reasons why they should continue to follow you. And really make this series about you, but also about how you will help them. So subtly mentioning things about yourself that will obviously get them to resonate with you, but also you want to make sure that you're showing exactly how you will help them. Because I could be the most amazing person ever and send you 1,000 emails a month and be showing you all of the amazing things that things that I think are amazing, but you might not feel that way. And you might get sick of just basically hearing about me all the time. You want to hear about how I am going to help you, because they joined your list because they need help and they see you as that resource. And if you're just going to only talk about yourself, then you're not really providing that value that they signed up for. So you want to make sure that you're doing it from a place of service at all times. So the 30-day indoctrination series, when you set it up, it's basically evergreen emails that will apply to any new person joining your list. And then you'll want to make sure that you set it up so that if someone has already been through this series, that they don't get it again. So in any email service provider, you should be able to put a tag on someone and then sort it out that way. So eventually, I'm going to do a deep dive into a 30-day indoctrination series and give you the full-out steps of what I recommend. But this episode is just kind of to get your juices flowing and give you some ideas for ways that you can use this series in order to boost your business and really, really nurture your people. So, as I was saying, the 30-day indoctrination series, when you get it set up, you're basically taking them on this evergreen email journey. And it's a way for them to get to know you, see what you're all about, and also for you to be able to tell them exactly how you're going to help them. And this should be the same for every single person that comes through your list. So every single person is going to feel like you are speaking to them in this series, that you wrote these emails specifically for them. And if you nail down these emails correctly, you will create a raving fan right off the top. And the reason why we do 30 days is because 30 days is when you are going to be the most top of mind person in their inbox. You want to send them an email every day for 30 days. They don't have to be long. They don't have to be complicated. They should be providing value. They should be helping them along in their journey and giving them some quick wins, but they shouldn't be massive novels every single day. And you want to make sure that they kind of build upon each other, but yet they will stand alone as well. So that's going to be the tricky part when you're writing out this email series. You want to make sure that if they read an email, and let's say you email them on a Monday and they don't read that email, but then you email them Tuesday, they don't read it, but then Wednesday, they open up your email and they read it. They want to feel like they're being supported, but not having that sense of like fear of missing out. So don't mention like your Monday and Tuesday email, because maybe they just didn't see them. Maybe they were super busy, maybe they were away, who knows? So make sure that your Wednesday email is good and it's providing value. However, it needs to be able to stand on its own. And don't make your people feel like they missed something, because that is the worst feeling that you give someone, where they start to feel like, oh my gosh, I missed one email and now I've missed everything. And you kind of want them to feel that way, but in a very strategic way, because you want them to be constantly opening your email and knowing that they're always going to get value. But don't make them feel shame because they missed an email, or like they missed out on this one and only opportunity in Tuesday's email. You can kind of circle back to a couple of the value points in each email. Let's say Monday you were talking about something really, really valuable and you want to make sure that they are getting access to that. Then you can always add it as a PS for the next few days' emails and just kind of say like, hey, just in case you missed it, I gave you this resource on Monday and yada, yada, yada. So another thing that I just want to touch on here too is the fact that when they are in any of these nurture sequences, they should only be getting your weekly content emails at the same time. And you want to make sure that if they are in a sales sequence, that they aren't also getting your nurture emails. And you want to make sure kind of vice versa, that if they are in your nurture sequence, that they're not getting any sales emails. So you have to make sure that you segment your list really, really well so that you are getting the right people, the right messages. So when you're in an indoctrination series, you shouldn't be getting a person's launch emails. And when someone's in your indoctrination series, you shouldn't be sending them your launch emails. The only emails that I agree with sending when someone is in an indoctrination series would be your weekly newsletter or weekly blog post or weekly podcast episodes. And what I do is when I'm setting up my indoctrination series, I let the indoctrination emails go out on any other day except for the ones that I know I send out my podcast email on. So my podcast come out on Tuesday. People will get an email on Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Eastern. And I know that I cannot have any other emails going out on Tuesday at 11 a.m. That is my holy time of nothing gets sent out at that time. Because I know every single person on my list, unless they are in a launch sequence or something along those lines, those emails will go out to everybody. So it's just kind of best practice to not have anything else sent on that day. Okay, so after someone is done with your 30-day indoctrination series, what I set up is a 90-day nurture sequence after that. And what that does is it follows the same rules as my 30-day indoctrination series, where the only emails that you don't get or the only emails that you still get on top of this are your weekly content. So as I said, newsletter, blog post, podcast, whatever it is, whatever thing you are sharing to the world weekly, those emails will still go out during this 90-day nurture sequence. However, the 90-day nurture sequence is not a daily email sequence. This is where you kind of not tone it down, but this is where you bring them to a level of, I'm only going to email you a couple times a week. And these emails should be very full of value, same rules as before, where they don't necessarily build off of each other, but they can stand alone and provide amazing value. These emails are written in the same format of being evergreen, but they also need to support your audience. And it's something where if you write these out once, then you should be able to just use them over and over and over again. And then these emails are going to be a way that you can segment your list further so you can gather some data on the people that are still actively reading and clicking after the first 30 days and into the next 90 days. So you want to make sure that you are really tracking and keeping tabs on the activities and the actions that people are taking inside this nurture sequence, because this is where you can gain valuable data on what your people want to read and what makes your people click and what makes your people buy. Because in these emails, you can link to some of your products that are one-off products. So obviously not a launch item, but something where you always have available on your website, or various ways that people can work with you. So if you're running like a service-based business or a coaching business, then you'll be sharing ways that people can actually get in touch with you if they're interested in working with you on those levels. So it kind of creates this constant conveyor belt of people that can potentially come into your business. And once they've gone through that 30-day indoctrination series, then they are going to be hopefully ready to buy, and they will definitely be craving more from you. So that is where you do it in this email series. So the next one is called the launch prep nurture sequence. And basically what this is it's an evergreen nurture sequence that I usually run for 3 weeks. And the reason why I run it for 3 weeks is because that basically gives me time to prep for a launch. And when you're in the middle of prepping for a launch, you've got so many other things going on where you're trying to get your sales pages up, you're trying to get your webinar planned, all of this other crazy stuff that's happening. And a lot of people forget that they need to start priming their list in order for this launch. So what I do is, before I ever even think about launching, I create a 3-week series that will email people, the select group that I know will be interested in the product, and I kind of prime them up for the launch. So I tease them that it's coming. I let them know that there's value in the emails that are coming to them. I let them know that there's a solution just around the corner. And I let them know that like the cart is opening on the 30th. So if it's the 15th, like get ready, it's coming. And I'm going to be sharing tips throughout the next couple weeks. So make sure you're opening my emails, that kind of thing. So the sequence that I write out for these emails is usually 2 times a week, and then it obviously gets a little bit heavier as we get to that final week, just before we officially open the door for the launch. And if you've listened to my episode on launching, you'll know that I recommend doing this before you get into a launch. And I basically say, like, you have to bring your people in and prep them for the launch. And then you want to make sure that these emails are complementary to your launch, but there's something that can be used again. So if you go in and just change the dates in this email, which you can easily do inside a service like Infusionsoft, you can just have words that you can switch out really easily by using merge fields. And you can actually create this to be an evergreen sequence that every time you're getting ready for a launch and you know you're 3 weeks away from cart open, you just turn this sequence on, you put your contacts in, you put whatever list it is that you want, and boom, good, done, over with. That runs silently in the background to your segmented list of people that you want to be launching to while you are busy prepping and you are doing the webinars and all of that other stuff that happens during a launch. So it kind of becomes a hands-off process. So a launch prep nurture sequence is amazing to have as an asset in your business, and I cannot recommend it enough. So the next one that I want to talk about is a boost engagement series. Now, I consider that a nurture series because this is for the people that are kind of falling off your list. So if they haven't taken action in 30 days, if they haven't opened an email in 60 days, various criteria like that, I have it sorted out in my Infusionsoft account already that basically says if I don't see action from these people, they go into this boost engagement series. And then what happens in this series is I'm trying to get people to click and open. So these emails will kind of have those sharper headlines and subject lines to be able to get people to open. It also has really good value and it's clickable value. So there's not necessarily anything in the email that's providing value except for a link to something that they'll have to click in order to get the value so that I can really see that they're opening and that they're clicking and that they're trying to get back on the list. So I don't let them know that they're in a boost engagement series or anything like that, but it basically just kind of will entice them to click. And then this series will usually run for a couple weeks. And if there's no action, then they get put into basically kind of a re-engagement series. And the re-engagement series, I guess, slightly falls under nurture, but it's more so like this is your last spot that you go before you will get removed off of my list. So the way that I do this is it's kind of culling my list and cleaning my list as my list travels through all of these email sequences. So if I have like a really, really engaged person on my list, well then clearly they're never going to make it to the Boost Engagement series because they are going to constantly be opening up my blog post emails, my podcast emails. They would have done really well in the 90-day nurture sequence. They might have already purchased some things from me. They definitely are going to be really active in any launch emails that I'm sending out, and they will eventually just stay on my list and only ever open up my weekly content emails, because eventually that's what's going to happen is once they've gone through the 30-day indoctrination, once they've gone through the 90-day and they are incredibly engaged, well, then it's not like my emails will slip off. They'll still be getting 2 emails a week from me. However, they aren't just going to get any of those other cushiony value building emails, because at that point, they should be hopefully purchasing things and they would be getting purchase emails and other emails along those lines. So that is kind of where they go afterwards if they don't make it into the Boost Engagement series or the re-engagement series. So re-engagement is basically where they go where I think that their email address might have changed or they're just simply not interested anymore, but they just haven't unsubscribed yet. So that's kind of where that's coming from. So I guess it's not the very last one, but the next one I want to talk about is what I use in my business called the monthly roundup. So what my monthly roundup email is something that I write at the beginning of the month that sends at the end of the month. And what I look at is all the podcast episodes that are going to be coming out. And I will basically write this out in this email, and I will make sure that it always sends on the last day of the month. And it will usually send later in the afternoon, so it doesn't conflict with any of my other emails that are going out. What that does is it allows them to get basically a summary of everything that happened in the last month in case they missed an email or they want to check out the podcast but just haven't had time. So it just kind of sends them a refresher of, hey, just so you know, you missed these episodes this month, and if you want to see them, here's the link. And the reason that I can do this is because I have my podcast obviously set up well in advance, but I also have all the links. I know what they're going to be. So I can easily write this email, put it in there. I already know what the show topics are going to be. So I can just kind of put it in there, let people know what we talked about, put the links in, and then I don't need to worry about it because I know it's going to send at the end of the month. And if I write it at the beginning, it just takes all of that pressure off of me. So the reason why I love using a monthly roundup is it's a good summary email to have. And it's one of those ones that people look for because people know that they will get that good summary email without fail at the end of every month. And it really provides kind of simple value where if people want to just get that summary, then they have that ability to do so. So I really like it as just kind of an extra nurture piece that I think just works really, really well. And the engagement and the feedback that I've got on this when I've put it into clients' businesses as well as my own has been just phenomenal. So I really, really am happy with the monthly roundup nurture sequence. So the next ones that I want to talk about are weekly content, which we've kind of already touched on. That is your weekly content emails. That is a form of nurture emails as well. And what that basically does is just lets people know when you've got something new, you set it up, you send it out, they click, they don't click, but it gives you the ability to give your audience something. It gives them access to your weekly content. It trains them to open up their emails. It allows them to click. It provides constant value. And the weekly content nurture sequence is like the biggest one that you should have in your business for sure. Next to, I'd say, the 30-day indoctrination series, because the 30-day indoctrination series is definitely probably the most important one. But the weekly content is it works side by side with that, as well as should be the most consistent thing that you do in your business moving forward from the start of someone getting on your list every single week for as long as they're on your list, they should be getting your weekly content emails. Unless, of course, they are in your re-engagement series, which is the one that I talked about, where that's where they go basically if you're debating on if they should even still be on your list, because they're not taking action, they're not opening emails, and that is a way for your list numbers to get really unhealthy looking, is by keeping those people that just aren't engaging on your list. So the reason why I get so passionate about nurture sequences is because that is the best way to keep your sender reputation high, as well as your deliverability high, as well as your engagement with your people. That has to be super high as well. So there's two other quick ones that I want to talk about before I wrap this up, and those are for what happens after someone purchases from you. Because I find that there's a big gap in that, where people will go through sales funnels, they'll be getting email after email after email to purchase, and then they purchase and it's crickets. So what I want to stress here is that you should always have a post-purchase nurture sequence. And that is above and beyond just sending out the weekly modules. It should be sharing kind of personal stories, personal success stories about the product that they just purchased. It should be telling them other valuable resources that you have available for them, not necessarily for purchase, but within the program or course or service that they just purchased from you. It should just be providing them ways to get in touch with you if they're having problems, give them the ability to hop on a phone call with you if that's something that you offer. Basically anything to just kind of go above and beyond after someone purchases. Because the worst thing is if you've just forked over a whole lot of money for a product and then you get the product and then you just never hear from this person again. It's really defeating when you think that you've invested in someone that you thought would be there to help you, because always on sales pages, it always looks like someone's there to help you 24/7 all the time until you actually give them your money and then they just kind of disappear. Not saying that their programs aren't great and super helpful, but the level of support just sometimes isn't there. So by just creating this simple post-purchase nurture sequence, you give them that value. And it really helps to solidify the fact that they did purchase from you and reassure them that they did the right thing. And it also encourages them to possibly purchase from you in the future because you are providing value after the transaction, which is huge. So in the very last one, it kind of goes along with the post-purchase nurture, but is actually called the past purchase nurture. So what that means is that it's for people that have purchased from you prior and they are currently not active in your program. So let's say you have a 12-week course and it's set up in an evergreen way, and it basically delivers modules every Monday for 12 weeks. And then they get some post-purchase nurture emails in there. They'll definitely still get your not your welcome email. They'll definitely still get your weekly content emails in there as well. But what we want to do is after they get out of that post-purchase nurture and they finished their 12-week course, then we want to make sure that we're sending them nurture for being a past client or a past customer. So we want to make sure that we're still emailing them and acknowledging that, yes, you finished this program and I am so proud of you that you finished it. And if you want to work with me further, or you want more value from me, or you want to see other things that I offer, this is where you would share those things with your audience. So super important to have those, because nurturing your audience needs to be important. I always say that building your list is the most important thing that you should be doing in your business every day. But with saying that, I feel like I really also need to stress that the reason why you're building your list is to nurture them. I think that gets lost sometimes, where people are trying to build up their list so fast, hit those magical numbers, get so many subscribers. But what happens is that once people get on your list, sometimes they just kind of feel abandoned. And that is why having a nurture sequence is so important. That's why I have created all of these different ways to nurture people, and that all work cohesively together and make a really good journey for my clients' customers as well as my customers. So it is a hugely important task in your business, and you should be focusing on this daily. So writing nurture emails, looking at nurture sequences, this isn't something that you can just build up overnight. It's something that takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. So over the next couple weeks, I would highly suggest sitting down, trying to figure out how to map out these nurture sequences and start writing, essentially. Start finding these little nuggets that you can put out there to your list to really nurture those people. Because the more you nurture a list, the more it's going to grow, and it's going to grow healthy. You don't want to just grow a dead list. You want to grow a really vibrant, engaged, amazingly receptive list. And you can't do that without nurture sequences. So that's all I wanted to talk about today. If you are interested in getting more resources from us for learning how to build out nurture sequences and figuring out the purpose for each of these, we do have a nurture resource library available, and I will link that in the show notes. You can find the show notes at greaterthanbusiness.com/052. And at the very bottom of that, you will see a lovely little box where you can type in your first name, last name, email address, and we will send you instant access to that resource. So that is our show for this week. I hope that you guys enjoyed it, and I hope that you are as passionate about nurture sequences as I am. And if you guys have any questions at all, please reach out. You can find my contact information anywhere on the show notes page, and I can't wait to talk to you guys again next week.
Thanks for listening to the Greater Than Business podcast at www.greaterthanbusiness.com.